عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة أيتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به، وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه، يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي، ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء، أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم، وسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم، ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية، ولا أرضا مدحية، ولا قمرا منيرا، ولا شمسا مضيئة، ولا فلكا يدور، ولا بحرا يجري، ولا فلكا يسري، إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي، ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي، أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام، ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية، ولا أرضا مدحية، ولا قمرا منيرا، ولا شمسا مضيئة، ولا فلكا يدور، ولا بحرا يجري، ولا فلكا يسري، إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم، قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذن والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال النبي ثانيا: يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي: إذن والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Please welcome Mulla Riyaz with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سورة المباركة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يعدي حقه المجتهدون، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الصلاة والسلام على الرسول المسدد والمصطفى الأمجد، سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وبآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، الذين أذهب الله عنكم الرجس طهر أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم وهو أصدق القائلين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن حاجك فيه من بعد ما جاءك من العلم فقل تعالوا ندعو أبناءنا وأبناءكم ونساءنا ونساءكم وأنفسنا وأنفسكم ثم نبتهل ونجعل لعنة الله على الكاذبين. صلوات الله محمد وعلى Begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent and the Merciful, for all praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for giving us this wonderful existence and for giving us this opportunity once again to remember a dhikr, or to sit in the dhikr of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, salamullahi alayhim ajma'in. On that note, I say Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. 24th of Zil-Hajj marks the anniversary of the auspicious occasion, Eid-e-Mubahilah. Now, this is the day of victory of Muslims over the Christians as quoted in Quran. Surah number 3 that I recited, the ayah, وَمَنْ حَاجَّكَ فِيهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ فَقُلْ تَعَالَوْا نَدْعُوا أَبْنَاءَنَا وَأَبْنَاءَكُمْ وَنِسَاءَنَا وَنِسَاءَكُمْ وَأَنفُسَنَا وَأَنفُسَكُمْ ثُمَّ نَبْتَهِلْ فَنَجْعَلْ لَعْنَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْكَاذِبِينَ. So this is the ayah number 61, Surah Al-Imran number 3. Now, the event of Mubahilah occurred in the year 9th Hijrah, and we know the Prophet passed away in 11th Hijrah. Now, this occasion of Mubahilah occurred 1 year before Ghadir. So 9th Hijrah, Mubahilah, 10th Hijrah, Ghadir, and 11th Hijrah, the death of the Prophet. So after the conquest of Makkah, Islam started spreading rapidly, and the Prophet started sending emissaries to the tribes who had not accepted Islam. There was a chunk of Arabia who had not accepted Islam at that time. Either they were on their own forefathers' religions, on their own traditions, or either they were Jews or Christians. And one of the emissaries carried a letter from the Prophet to Najran. Now, before I delve into details, I have to mention that one of the famous accolades that is bestowed upon Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, is on the day of Mubahilah. Ghadir has got its own unique importance, but this day of Mubahilah is exquisite because it's one of the highest attributes that was ever granted to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Now this event highlighted the superiority amongst all those who surrounded the Holy Prophet. And the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not the Prophet, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who wanted to honor Amirul Mu'mineen in the Quran by not calling him a companion, but rather praising him as Nafs Rasul Anfusana wa Anfusakum. And he came on the day of Mubahilah with the Prophet as his nafs. You know what is nafs? Self. So it means if the Prophet is not there, it is Imam Ali who takes the seat of the Prophet. So that is nafs Rasul. Now this particular attribute will remain with him forever, and this attribute was bestowed upon him at the age of 31. He was only 31 years old. He was 30 years younger than the Prophet himself. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala identifies him as Nafs Rasul, the self of Rasulullah. And you find that this particular identification was an identification made to the Muslims for them to understand that being the companion of Prophet is one thing, and being Ali as Nafs Rasul is a totally unique, exclusive thing. See, there's a division here. Companions were many, but this fadail and this excellence that was bestowed on the day of Mubahilah to Imam Ali, no companion has. It is incomparable. So now, when you come to examine the event of Mubahilah, when we look at Surah 361, ayah of Mubahilah says that no doubt this ayah was no doubt revealed about Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, that is the 5 holy personalities. The Prophet himself, Imam Ali, Bibi Fatima, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. That we find that both the Sunni and the Shia literature, there is no doubt about this verse being revealed about Imam Ali alayhi salam and the family of the Prophet. Therefore, you find Quran lavishes much praise in many verses. And event of Mubahilah also highlights the political stature of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Because the treaty after the Mubahilah was over, the treaty that was written between the Christians and the Holy Prophet was written by Imam Ali alayhi salam. So in other words, Mubahilah in the ninth year is vital. Now we ask why? because it's 1 year before Ghadir, and therefore it is 1 year before Rasulullah made the declaration of his political agenda. And who is going to be the leader, political leader of the Islamic State? And it's making clear that do not think that Ali was chosen on Ghadir. No. There were many previous occasions before where Allah has lavished his blessings to Imam Ali, and one of them is Mubahilah. It's very important. Now let's examine the event of Mubahilah in order to understand the position of Imam Ali in this ayah. How this ayah makes clear that nobody on this earth is as equal or is as like in his origin to the Prophet like Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Now the year of Mubahilah was known to the Arabs as Amul Wufud. This is Amul Wufud. Am means, year. Wufud in Arabic, wafad is a delegation. Wufud is plural, delegations. So wufud is a plural, it's delegations. And Amul Wufud refers to the year of delegations. Why? Because when Islam was at that time as its strongest period, the state of Islam was at its strongest point, the strongest state, because now the Prophet has now conquered Mecca, and Mecca was in his hands, Medina is in his hands, a chunk of Arabia is in his hands now, totally the whole area of Hijaz is in his hands. So now is the time Islam was at its peak. Now, the thing was that many non-Muslims who were living in Islamic states were wondering that, they were asking themselves one question. Many non-Muslim communities living in Arabia were asking one question, that what is our position that now the Holy Prophet Muhammad is in full control of Arabia? Are we going to be allowed to practice our faith in a non-Muslim state or a non-Muslim environment? Or are we allowed to go to the church if we are Christians? Or are we allowed to go to the synagogue if we are Jews? Or are we allowed to go to the temple if we are statue worshippers, idol worshippers? So they were thinking, what is our position? Many communities were there. Others were thinking, that there were so many of the tribes at that time in the parts of Arabia that they would think that we have never met the Prophet. And they were under a false impression because these tribes were given a false impression that the message that was conveyed to this tribe, which lived far away from Mecca and Medina, that the Prophet Ma'adallah is an evil person. That is the idea that was given to these tribes. We have never met him. Or he is an arrogant man. This is the idea that flourished in some of the communities, the Arab communities at that time in the Arabia, in that region of Hijaz. Or he is an aloof person, like he's not approachable. All those negative thinkings. So they decided that we need to meet him. Now, the community leaders of these Arab communities, of these groups, they said we have to meet this man for ourselves. Because they didn't want to destroy the community like, Chinese whispers. These were whispers in their community. Chinese whispers means what? Chinese whispers mean any community in the world that destroys its reputation because of its Chinese whispers, Gossip. The gossip, it's false gossip. It's known as Chinese whispers. The problem was that Muhammad, Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he was the victim of a prophet, was a victim of many rumors and many negative rumors. So therefore many people, that when he conquered Mecca and he conquered Medina, many people decided that let us go, the leaders of the tribes, they said, let us go and now meet this man. And many of the leaders, they came to meet him at this time. That's why this time on the 9th Hijri is known as Amul Wufud. Many Arab communities came to meet because now they wanted to see for themselves that what is he, what is the essence of the Prophet. What we have heard, and let's go see and talk to him, and then we'll decide what is going to happen. So the delegations came, the delegations from different places, they came. But there, you see, the thing is, their level of intellect were different also. Please understand, my brothers and sisters, I know I'm talking to an educated group, that a speaker, when he speaks, has to evaluate before he speaks the intelligence and IQ level of the audience that he is speaking to. Sometimes people, they speak in villages, they don't have the same IQ and intelligence as people or educated people in the cities. See? There was a time, I remember in East Africa when I was growing up, our Khoja community hardly knew Islamic history. They didn't know. They barely knew Islamic history. So that level of intelligence has to be digested by the speaker when he speaks to his audience. So now these people in Arabia started approaching the Prophet and they started visiting Rasulullah. All of them had different level of intellect, different IQs. And the beauty of a man is that when he discusses anything, or the beauty of a woman in any dialogue is to have the knack of how to talk to the people or the audience on their own intellectual levels. This is the beauty of a speaker. Now, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says, make sure that you talk to people according to their intellect. He says in Nahjul Balagha, talk to them according to their intellect. Many of these delegations started to arrive to see the Prophet. When they came, what happened? They came, you'll be surprised, they came with different type of intellect. Those first who came, they came to Rasulullah, to the Holy Prophet, and he comes, one of the community leaders, members of the community of the Arab tribes, I would call them the Arab tribes. He comes to the Prophet and he addresses the Prophet. He doesn't know anything. They are Bedouins living in the desert. So their level of intelligence is at a minimum. Their IQ level is at a minimum. So they wanted to accept Islam, but their own terms, on their level of understanding. So look at the question that they ask. One of the tribe leaders says, Muhammad, what do you think of the camel? You see? Now, this is the level of intellect they have. That what do you think of the camel? And the Prophet said, we respect it. It's a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a creation of God. And they said, but oh Muhammad, what about the sheep? Creation of Allah. And what about the goat? It's a creation of Allah. The cow, of course, Prophet said, it's a creation of Allah. And says, Muhammad, tell us that what if someone steals and kills my camel or my sheep or goat? And the Prophet said that he is a tyrant, he is an oppressor, and he has to be punished. For that matter, he has to be punished because this type of action is not allowed as far as Islam is concerned. So he looks at the Prophet and he says, okay, now I understand your religion. You see, on that level of intellect, he understood the religion of Islam, and the whole tribe accepts Islam with the Prophet. You see, so different tribes had different, simple. Now this person, he came, he doesn't know anything. The only thing he knows is that I've got a herd of camels and herd of sheep and herd of goats and all that sort of things. So he didn't say that give me a philosophical or cosmological answer about your religion or Platonic argument. No. What I know is my camel and my sheep, and if someone steals my sheep or my cattle, then what does Islam have to say? And Prophet says that it is accountable and will be taken to task by the Muslim government. He will be punished. So the Prophet says the thief is accountable, and he says, the Arab tribal leader says, that's it, I'm a Muslim. And all his, members, the tribal members, they convert to Islam. You see, with that level of intellect that they came with the Prophet. Now, for example, a tribe of Banu Tamim, they come to the Prophet. I'm giving you a preface of really what happened after Makkah was conquered. The tribe of Banu Tamim, they were very eloquent in Arabic language. You see, the level of intellect was at that level that they were masters of poetry in Arabic language. And they said, Muhammad, we hear that you talk Arabic in a beautiful manner, in an eloquent manner, in a flowery manner. So we would like to debate with you on Arabic poetry. You see, now that is the level of intellect. So they said, Prophet, we have heard your Arabic is the greatest. So the Prophet said, before you come to me, I have my designated poet. At that time, the Prophet had his own designated poet, and his name was Hassan bin Thabit. Now this Hassan bin Thabit, Prophet said, you go to Hassan bin Thabit and debate with him on the eloquence of Arabic language and the poetry. If he fails to answer your poetry, because you know how poetry is, if he fails to answer your poetry, then you come to me. Then I will debate with you. And they tried to debate with Hassan in poetry, and they lost, because Hassan bin Thabit was very eloquent in the language. He was the greatest poet at that time in Arabia, and he was a confidant of the Prophet himself. And they lost, and they accepted Islam. They said, on that level, we accept Islam. Now, there was another group that is a very interesting group, and I like this group, my brothers and sisters, because they are like us. They come to the Prophet and they say, Muhammad, what is your opinion about adultery, for example? And the Prophet says, not allowed, it's prohibited. Okay, what about usury, interest, to give out loans on interest? And Prophet said, not allowed. Okay. He says, Muhammad, what is your opinion about alcohol? And the Prophet says, not allowed, prohibited. What about gambling? You see, now that was the level of intellect that time. What about gambling? Not allowed. Okay, very well. Now we want to join your religion. They are telling the Prophet, now we want to join your religion. So, but we have got a request. We need a favor from you. And the Prophet said, what? He said, exempt us and allow us to drink a little bit. A little bit. And Prophet said, yes, and what else? So he said, allow us to gamble also a little bit. Right? And allow us to give out loans on interest and usury, if you don't mind. So then the Prophet says, what is left of Islam? There is nothing that is left. Huh? You want to pick and choose like we do. We want to pick and choose. What we want, we take. It's like a breakfast buffet or a lunch buffet that we have. Khojas would love that. They pick and choose whatever they want, and they keep the rest. And this is exactly the tribe that was resounding to the Khojas, basically. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. But they went, and when Prophet refused, they went, as we'll think about it. They came back next day and says, Muhammad, you're right. We want to join the religion of Islam. But please, if you don't mind, allow us to drink at least once a week, for example, or once a month. And, there's a small idol that we want to keep in our house. So once a month, allow us to prostrate. And the Prophet says, period, you cannot do that. Islam does not allow that, no pick and choose. The irony is that today's Muslims face that problem. Don't we all, even the Muslims at large, they face the same problem. They pick and choose. Today's Muslims, you've seen them. Our Muslims also, what? Muharram, they are here. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Look at our own community. You will see this hall is full in the month of Muharram, maybe. And then in the month of Ramadan, on the nights of Amal, Qadr, you will find it full. You know, we pick and choose. So today's Muslim, you see that Muharram, yes, will go to the mosque. Ramadan, fasting, yes, we'll pick and choose. One day we'll fast, 2 days we'll skip. One day we'll fast, 2 days we'll skip. That's what the Muslims do. Al-Mizaji means according to me because it's too long. So I got to rest after 1 day's fasting. I got to rest for 2 days. You see? Skip some fast prayers, yes. Other things, if I don't feel like, then don't tell me. But I have to submit to them, yes. And I'll submit to what I think is rational. Habibi means, what do you think is rational in Islam? And who are you to decide what is rational in Islam? Or who am I to decide what is rational in Islam? You will decide and I will decide the rationality of Islam. Since when does someone even care about what you and I think? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When a person says that I am a Muslim, means a total submission to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no pick and choose, there is no breakfast buffet, there is no lunch buffet. It has to be. It has to be comprehensive acceptance of the laws of Islam. Islam says submission, to submit. It doesn't say that, oh, I will submit when I am ready. Or I'll turn around to you. Or inform you when I'm ready. No. Islam says the moment you accept, you submit, there is no turning around. Or there is no waiting. Period. Those Arabs in this Amul Wufud, these delegations that came to the Prophet, that they said, okay, we'll join the religion, but a bit of alcohol. The Prophet said no. A small idol at home, he says no. Please allow. The Prophet says no. Islam is complete submission. Without submission, you do not gain salvation. Simple as that. Therefore, you find eventually they started coming towards Islam because the Prophet had his own way of da'wah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, therefore, many delegations that came to the Prophet, sometimes he used to, the Prophet was not after the conquest of Makkah, he was not waiting for people to come to him. If we remember, there were 4 emperors at that time, and he wrote letters of da'wah to these 4 emperors to accept Islam. One is the Byzantine Empire, one is to the Vatican Pope, one is the Iranian emperor, one is the Yemeni emperor. He wrote these letters, gave it to his companions that go and give this da'wah to these emperors. So many of the delegations came to the Prophet sometimes. He used to write letters to people of the tribes that he have never met. And a great leader doesn't wait for people to visit him. This is the quality of a leader, a great leader who turns around and says that I will go and visit the people. The Prophet began to write letters. He wrote letters to whom? Starting write letters to different heads of religion. And one of the letters that he wrote was to a Christian community in Najran. If you see today, the city of Najran is still there on the border of Saudi Arabia and Yemen. It is still called Najran. So he started writing these letters, and he wrote that this letter comes to you from the Prophet of God, the Messenger of Allah, and we believe in the Abrahamic laws, and we believe in the worship of one God, the laws of Isaac, what he brought. Do not take partners to God. Do not take, there is no lawgiver besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, the Archbishop, Baba Skofu, the Archbishop of that Christian community in Najran, their leader, Abu Harith, it's mentioned as Abu Harith. And you'll be surprised, there was a strong Catholic community in Najran. about 40 to 50,000 Christians that lived in Yemen, in the border of Saudi Arabia today. And 40 to 50,000 used to live in the border of the Saudi and the Yemeni region. The irony today is that in Saudi Arabia there's not one church. There is not one church. There is not one church in Saudi Arabia. And they say that Saudi Arabia is going on a democratic path. And they have formed, I was laughing to myself when the Saudi government announced that we have formed a ministry of happiness and freedom, so to speak. I mean, what sort of happiness and freedom is this? That there's not a synagogue, there's not a church. You see, in Iraq, there are churches. Christians have churches. In Iran, there are churches. Lebanon, there are churches. Jordan, there are churches. Syria, there are churches. Even in UAE these days, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Muscat, you find churches. But Saudi Arabia, no. And this is the country that gets defended the most. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So when the Archbishop of Najran, when he saw that letter, when he read that letter, he turned towards his advisors and he said, this letter is very different. This is from Muhammad, someone in Medina who calls himself a prophet. And he talked to his advisor and says, what do you think about it? And the top advisor replies that, sir, I can advise you on worldly affairs, but when it comes to prophethood, I refrain myself. And he said to him, why? And he answered, the Bible says, the Old Testament says, that there will be 12 princes from the lineage of Ishmael. It's there in the Old Testament today. That there will be 12 princes from the lineage of Ishmael. And I cannot deny Ishmael's lineage. And the lineage of Ishmael may even have a prophet. And this prophet who claims to be a prophet may be from the lineage of Ishmael. And he says, the Bible says there will be 12. You see, the unique number is 12 now. It's a profound number. You see, everywhere, you see. It's a unique number, 12. He says, the Bible says there will be 12 princes. 12 princes. The Old Testament says there will be 12 princes from the lineage of Ishmael in the book of Genesis. There are 5 top books of the Old Testament. And one of them is Genesis. And he said, I cannot deny Ishmael's lineage. Well, about this prophethood. So 12 from the lineage of Ishmael. If we take a cursory look at the prophet, Moses had 12 tribes. He led out of Pharaoh's camp. There were 12 Israeli tribes. You see that number 12 is another unique. It's a unique figure. 12. Now every Muslim has to believe that our prophet has 12. Who are the 12? It's up to them to decide. Because Imam Bukhari in Sahih Bukhari says that Rasulullah said that after me, there will be 12 successors after me. So that again, you see that number 12 comes up. Who are they? Well, it's up to you to decide. Imam Bukhari says it's up to you to decide. But the number 12 is a profound number. It is a very prominent number. It is unique. So the Archbishop says, what do? We go and meet Muhammad. So he says, yes, we have to. So this group of Christians, he summoned 3 famous priests of that time. Very intelligent at that time. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. He summoned 3 intelligent priests, the best of them, and said to each one of them that proceed to Medina. Let's proceed to Medina and meet Muhammad. They wanted to find out if this man is as genuine as he writes about himself, as genuine as he sounds. And this was the aim. So a delegation of 60 with these 3 top archbishops and a delegation of 60 of total, they entered Medina and they are wearing their finest robes of, silk, jewelry donned with jewelry. And they came to the Prophet's mosque looking around that where is Muhammad? They first found Uthman bin Affan, two companions, Usman bin Affan, who later became the third caliph, and Abdurrahman bin Auf. These two companions they found outside the mosque, and they inquired, where is Muhammad? And Usman bin Affan says, I'm not sure, go and ask men there, pointing towards Ali. Ali was sitting right in the mosque, in the sand, in the area of the mosque. So they approached Ali and said, where is Muhammad? And Imam Ali asked him, who are you? So they said, we are a delegation of Christians from Najran. We have our own Kaaba in Najran. We have our own site that we pay worship to. I mean, if you read history, you will find that this was the second most holy sites after Vatican. Najran was the second most holy sites after Vatican in Italy. We have our Kaaba, and we live on the border of Saudi and Yemen, and we have come to meet Muhammad because he has written a letter, Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Imam Ali looked at them and he says, your garments, your clothes, I cannot take you to the Prophet like the way you are dressed, donned with jewelry, diamonds, and silk robes. No. You got to be more humble. Go and wear more acceptable clothes and come back tomorrow. Come back with humility. I will not allow you to see the Prophet with this pomp and glamour that you display. So change into garment of humility. Come in clothes of humility when you want to meet a person like Muhammad. So tomorrow return with acceptable clothes. I will take you to him. Next day they came to the Holy Prophet. They sat with him, and the Prophet said, welcome our brothers from Najran. And they said, yes, Muhammad, you wrote us a letter saying that come towards Islam and other options. Now here we are. I mean, now Arabia is at your feet, at your command. You are the supreme head of state of the whole of the Arabian state, and Najran falls into that state. So we are here and we need to have a dialogue with you. Prophet said, by all means. They said, we ask you a question. Who is Musa, Nabi Musa's father? Who is Prophet Moses' father? And the Prophet replied, Imran. His name is Imran. And then they asked, who is Joseph's father? Prophet Joseph's father. And Nabi said, Jacob, Yaqub. Fine. And they said, Muhammad, who is your father? You see how they started the dialogue? Quite an intelligent way. Who's your father? And he says, Abdullah. My father's name is Abdullah. And they put in, who is Jesus' father? Who is Nabi Isa's father? And the Prophet bowed down his head. He looked at them and he says, can you wait for a few seconds? And they said, yeah, sure. Because there was a silence at that time. That is the time when this revelation came. Surah 3, verse number 59. Inna masali Isa indallahi ka masali Adam khalaqahu min turabin thumma qala lahu kun fayakun. Means the example of Jesus vis-a-vis in the eye of God is same as of Adam. The Prophet looked at them and he said, if you believe in Jesus as Son of God or as God, then Adam is a greater son of God because he has no male, no father and no mother. See, this is in Surah number 3, chapter 3 and verse 59. Inna masali Isa indallahi ka masali Adama khalaqahu min turabin, means he has been created from dust, from clay. Thumma qala lahu kun fayakun, means Allah, when he wishes, he says be, and it is. I mean, Allah is devoid of any assistance. ثُمَّ قَالَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونَ, when he decrees a matter, and it is. This is the omniscience and the omnipotence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet said, no, if Jesus is exalted because of the fact that he had no father, then Adam had no father and no mother. So he has to be more elevated than Jesus. Because that's an absolute miracle to create someone without father and without mother. He's a greater God than Jesus, or he deserves to be a higher son than Jesus, Son of God. So the Prophet asked them, it's one of the most convincing argument that we have from the Quran. There is nothing after this. There is no other argument that stands against Christianity after this verse was revealed. So they said, the Prophet said, now what do you accept this rational response? This rationality that I have produced, that has come down to me from Allah, do you accept? So they said no. Let us contemplate, and we shall return in a couple of days' time. So next day or the other day they returned and they said, Muhammad, you have given us what you wanted. It is quite intelligent, but we do not agree and we do not accept what you say. We just do not accept what you say. We still insist that Jesus is Son of God. And Prophet said, so you are adamant to remain Christians? And they said yes. And they said, we will remain a government within a government. See, in Lebanon today, there is a government within a government. Hezbollah is a government in itself. So they wish to remain the same way. They said, we will remain under your umbrella as a government. We don't believe in your prophethood. They told him, you are a good man. You are taking a stand now. But we are taking a stand as well to remain Christians. So the Prophet says, I am willing to enter in a Mubahilah. What is Mubahilah? Mubahilah means a confrontation. It's not a debate anymore, because the debate is over. When Allah advanced him that ayah from Surah Al-Imran verse 59, after that there was no more debate. So now it's a Mubahilah, it's a confrontation. So we celebrate, as Muslims four celebrations that we have. We have Eid al-Fitr, we have Eid al-Adha, we have Eid al-Ghadir, and of course Eid al-Mubahilah. This is the fourth one. So the Prophet asked, are you willing to enter into a Mubahilah? And it is it is a very dangerous thing, I would say. Means a confrontation. What's a Mubahilah? That you believe that you are the people of God, and we believe we are people of God. Let God judge and curse whoever is on the wrong, whoever is a liar. You see how grave this matter is right now? This is the Mubahilah. And this is the verse that was revealed to the Prophet when they did not accept that. Now call them out for a Mubahilah. Call them for a confrontation. So the Prophet asked, are you willing into a confrontation with us? They consulted each other and they said, yes, we will enter into a Mubahilah against you. And they asked where. And the Prophet said, there is on the outskirts of Medina, there's a plain ground. We'll have a shelter for you ready there. We'll have a shelter for us. And tomorrow, everyone will gather there, and your group and my group will have a confrontation there. And we will pray to God to curse the liar. We will pray to Allah to curse the liar. So we'll bring ourselves. Now, you see, that's where the ayat came. أبناءنا وأبناكم ونساءنا ونساءكم وأنفسنا وأنفسكم ثم نبتهل فنجعل لعنة الله على الكاذبين. Look at the verse. Look at the verse that Allah's mercy will be withdrawn from the liars. Means Allah's curse will descend on that group. Whoever is on, whoever is a liar, whoever is wrong. Now, imagine the Sahabas, there was an uproar in the city of Medina, and they were all thinking that, we are all going to get together. The Prophet is all going to take us all together. Because it said, Abna'ana wa abna'akum wa nisa'ana, means your sons and our sons. It's all plural. If you see this ayat, it's all plural. Abna'ana wa abna'akum. Wa nisa'ana means your women and our women. It's plural, W-O-M-E-N. Wa anfusana means yourselves and ourselves, not singular. So they were all thinking that we will be granted this this special position that we will go with the Prophet ourselves, the companions. So there was an anxiety, the Sahabas, the companions started dreaming that who the Prophet is going to take tomorrow for this confrontation. I mean, it was a big question mark. People had sleepless night that night. It's a huge event. The Prophet says, you rejected me, so now let God curse whoever is a liar. This is known as Mubahilah. And I am so confident of my prophethood, the Prophet tells them, I am willing to enter into a Mubahilah with you. So Quran says, bring your sons, we bring our sons. You bring your women, we bring our women. You bring your children, we bring our children. And you bring yourselves, and we bring ourselves. The Prophet could have taken the whole of the companions themselves, like him. It's a possibility. So now, when you think that ayah says sons, so who did he choose? He chose Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. These two. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He chose his two grandsons. Now, you see, the thing is, sons, Imam Hussein are not his sons. They are his grandsons. So when he brings them as sons, the message here is giving is to the Muslims what? That these are not my grandsons, they are my sons. So when he came out for that confrontation next day, he had only 2 children with him. He did not take a group of children, no. He had only 2 grandsons that I choose Hassan and Hussein as my children, and that is the highest honor that Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein have in Islam today. That the Prophet discarded the whole of the public of Medina and chose only his 2 grandsons. And then he says, bring your women. Prophet had 9 wives at that time, or maybe 8 wives. And he chose one only, and that was his daughter, Fatima. It is plural. Can you imagine? Fatima is equal to the whole of the women of Medina. I mean, it's just an amazing phenomena that transpired in Medina in the 9th Hijri. He could have taken hundreds of women. He could have taken his 9 wives together with him. No. He chose only one lady. That one lady is a plural. She is equivalent to the whole of the women of Medina. And he didn't choose anyone else. So bring your women, he took Fatima Zahra. And Quran says in plural, women, nisa'ana wa nisa'akum, he took only Fatima. Because when it says nisa'ana wa nisa'akum, it's plural, it should bring more than one. Because all the women there could not be equal in the status to Fatima Zahra salamullah. The status that she had, I mean, that was unique. It was unparalleled to any of the women in Medina at that time, including his wives. This is the status of Fatima Zahra, salamullahi alayha. So when he took Fatima Zahra in Mubahilah, you know that he is now saying that there is, you know, this is a political event as well. This is not a spiritual event. It's a political event. We can call it a political as well as spiritual event. Because now a fate has to be decided within these 2 communities. And Allah is going to be the judge. And Fatima is in the forefront, you see, being at the forefront in the political system is allowed in Islam. This is what Prophet demonstrated at that time. You know Benazir Bhutto ruling Pakistan and the mullahs giving fatwa against her? Hasina Wajid who's ruling, or whoever is ruling Bangladesh right now? It's totally acceptable in Islam. They have to be in the political front. There is no harm if this community has a woman president. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A woman treasurer for that matter. A woman vice president. I mean, the Prophet demonstrated this, that it's a political issue. And here my daughter is in the front. I have brought her right up front. There is no compromise in values. So by bringing Fatima in the open, he's conveying message to the whole world that if ever you say that Muslim women are oppressed, look at Fatima today. I have brought her out in the open. And this is the political future that is going to decide the righteousness of my religion today against the Christians. It's a confrontation that is unparalleled in history, documented in the Quran. So now, interestingly enough, Muawiyah, who was a staunch enemy to the family of the Prophet, or Imam Ali alayhi salam. He was a staunch enemy. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas is one of those great companions that the Muslims revere. And he is asking Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas that, why don't you curse Ali? Muawiyah was the one who started, for 99 years he started in Azan to curse Ali, Imam Ali. Imam Ali was being cursed in the time of Muawiyah and later on, till one of the other caliphs came and stopped that cursing. So he is asking, Pakistan, Saudi, what do you say? They say Amir Muawiyah, radiyallahu anhu. What a farce. Amir Muawiyah, mashallah. What I would say is stupid is as stupid does. Amir Muawiyah, a person who hates the family of the Prophet, who hates Imam Ali so much that he has given injunction to be cursed in every adhan, in the call to prayer. And here we say, the Muslims say, Amir Muawiyah, Master Muawiyah, radiyallahu, may God be pleased with him. Look at this hypocrisy. It's the highest level of hypocrisy in Islam. The highest level. By the way, the best part is, they are all in Jannah. They are all in paradise. Muawiyah in paradise. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas in paradise. Umar ibn Sa'ad in paradise. Yazid, who killed Imam Hussein, is in paradise. So sometimes I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please don't put me where they are, because it's stress and headache to me. Don't put me there. Put me somewhere else, but not with these people in paradise, because every person who hated the family of the Prophet, Muslims have put them in paradise. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Muawiyah is asking Sa'ad, he says, Sa'ad, I never see you cursing Ali. You don't curse Ali. I've never seen you cursing Ali. And he says, I will not curse Ali ibn Abi Talib. So he said, why? 3 reasons. First of them, on the day of Tabuk, Tabuk was an expedition that was led by the Prophet to Gulf of Aqaba. There is a place called Tabuk there, where he was to confront the Byzantine Empire army. But that fight, that war never happened. And he left Imam Ali in Medina, and Imam Ali was feeling very sad that I'm going to miss this war. And that's the day when Imam Ali, Rasulullah told him that Ali, anta minni bimanzilati Haruna min Musa illa annahu la nabiyya ba'di. And this is exactly in Sahih Bukhari. It is there in the Muslim books. That on the event of Tabuk, the Prophet says that, oh Ali, your status vis-a-vis my status is like that of Aaron to Moses. Aaron was a prophet. Moses is a prophet. You are to me like Aaron was to Moses, but after me there is no prophet. Illa annahu la nabiyya ba'di. There is no prophet after me. But you are a successor and a vicegerent to me like Aaron was to Moses. So Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas tells Muawiyah, this is one of the excellence of Ali. Second of them, Rasulullah on the day of Khaybar, he says on the day of that battle of Khaybar, he says, I will give this banner and the flag to a man that who loves Allah and me, and Allah and me love him. And he gave that flag to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. So that is his second excellence. And the third of them is the event of Mubalah, that Rasulullah said, I am going to take my nafs. Means I am to take Ali as myself. So if Rasulullah, if the Prophet is absent, Imam Ali is the official leader of the Muslim community. That's why Ahmad ibn Hanbal says, this famous Sunni Imam of the Muslims, he was asked that, who are the best excellent companions of the Prophet? And of course he said, number 1 is Abu Bakr, and number 2 is Umar, and number 3 is Usman. So the person who asked, he says, Ya Shaykh, لماذا تقول بعلي ibn Abi Talib? What do you say about Ali ibn Abi Talib? Means you did not mention the excellence of Abu Talib. And look at the reply that he gives in Masnad today. It's written in his book. He says, You asked me of the companions. Ali laysa lahu min sahaba. Ali huwa nafs al-Rasul. He is not a companion. He is the self of the Prophet. This is Ahmad ibn Hanbal writing in his own book. And one of those books are one of the Siyasittas, the most trustworthy books of the Muslims. That laysa lahu min as-sahaba. He is not from the companions. He is nafs Rasul. Means if the Prophet is not there, he is going to be sitting on the seat of the Prophet and acting exactly like the Prophet and ruling the Muslim community. He is nafs Rasul. You asked about companions, I gave you the names. Don't talk about Sahaba. You see, that was the day it was decided that Ali is not amongst the companions, not among the friends of the Prophet. He is Rasul's self. So on the day of Mubahilah, he told Salman, go and prepare that Maidan, that empty place. Raise some shamiyanas, the shelter for both of them. Now this Abu Haris tells his party that I wonder who the Prophet is going to bring tomorrow. And he then warns him that if he brings his companions, and if he brings his wives, and he brings his friends, then 100% we are going to have this confrontation. But Khabardar, and he tells them that if he brings his member of family, there will be no confrontation, will back out. Because nobody is going to jeopardize his own family to be cursed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the Christians, they witnessed the Prophet entering the arena with Imam Hussein in his arms, Imam Hassan holding his finger, and walking beside him, Bibi Fatima following the Prophet behind, and behind Bibi Fatima was Imam Ali, walking behind her. So on the day of Mubahilah, there were only these 5 personalities that were seen, in plural. This was in plurality. And the Prophet approached at the appointed place. He sat down under the shelter. And he says, Ya Allah, Allahumma, ha'ulai ahlu bayti, khassati, wa hammati, lahmuhum lahmi, wa damuhum dami. That he prayed at that time, and the Christians are listening, that, oh God, Ya Allah, this is my family. Ha'ulai ahlu bayti, khassati, they are special. Hammati, there is no peril to them. Lahmuhum lahmi, my flesh is their flesh, wa damuhum dami, my blood is their blood. This is how the confrontation happened. And Abu Haris, when he saw this, he says, by God, I see such beautiful and sanctimonious faces, that if they were to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to move mountains, or my brothers, do not go into confrontation. If these people, they pray, the mountains will move. This is the event of Mubahilah, my brothers and sisters. That today the Muslims even refuse to accept this event. They said, oh, this ayat came as hypothetical. It is hypothetical. It is metaphorical. They don't even want to believe that this ayat came at that town in a physical event that transpired. See the books and the Maulvis in Pakistan. And then Abu Haris turns around to his companions and he says, let's back out, because if we pray and the curse is levied, believe me, my brothers, there will not be a single Christian alive on this earth today, because fire will rain on us. These are the exact words if you read the Arabic language in the books. He agreed that fire will rain on us. There will not be a single Christian that will remain on earth. So it is better to back away and make a compromise, make a peace treaty. And they made a peace treaty with the Prophet that, of course, this much of taxes and jizyas we will give. We will not form our own government. I mean, there were so many other conditions. And Imam Ali wrote this peace treaty. So this event, my brothers and sisters, unquestionably establishes the truth about the spiritual purity of Ahlul Bayt Salamullahi alayhim, the family of the Prophet, my brothers and sisters. It proves beyond all doubts as to who are the members of the family of the Prophet. The seriousness and the gravity of the occasion demands absolute purity, spiritual as well as physical, in the individuals to serve in this fateful occasion. I mean, it was a dangerous occasion for the Prophet to present these family members to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the best ones of his creation for truth. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين أفضل الصلاة وعليك يا محمد وآل محمد.
Salawat. On the 24th of Zil-Hajj, victory at Mubahilah, victory, victory, victory at Mubahilah, victory, victory, victory at Mubahilah. Rasulullah extended, come and worship one God and be united in Tawheed. They rejected the call of Allah. They rejected the call of Allah and were defeated in Mubahilah. Victory, victory, victory at Mubahilah. Victory, victory, victory at Mubahilah. The verses revealed to Ahmad. Bring your sons, we'll bring ours. Call your women and yourself and yourself. Invoke the curse of Allah and the desert for Mubahilah. Victory, victory, victory at Mubahilah. Victory, victory, victory at Mubahilah. The beloved daughter of Nabi, her name was Al-Zahra. She is the lady of the light. Worship only Allah, representing all the women, triumphant in Mubahilah. Victory, victory, victory at Mubahilah. Leaders of Yusuf paradise, there are known as Hassanain. Shabir was on the right hand, Shabir was on his left, as the son of Habibullah, as the son of Habibullah, the glory of Mubahilah. Victory, victory, victory at Mubahilah. The soul of the Prophet was the wali, the lion of Allah. The standard and our guide is a great Murtaza, an example to all the Ummah, an example to all the Ummah. Ahlul Bayt Mubahilah. Victory, victory, victory at Mubahilah. Victory, victory, victory at Mubahilah. Muhammadun wa al-Muhammad. Salawat.
Salawat. Nare Haidari. Da Muhammad mein بلندیاں یہ دیکھ کے پکارا دل میرا. علی پسند ہے بہت ہی پسند ہے, علی پسند ہے مجھے, علی پسند ہے بہت ہی پسند ہے, علی پسند ہے مجھے. دم حمد میں علی 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 مولا, دم حمد میں علی 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 مولا, دم حمد میں علی 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 مولا, علی مولا. صلوات.
صلوات. علی سے پوچھ فضیلت نماز پڑھنے کی, علی سے پوچھ فضیلت نماز پڑھنے کی, علی سے پوچھ فضیلت نماز پڑھنے کی, جو کر رہا ہے مذمت نماز پڑھنے کی, جو کر رہا ہے مذمت نماز پڑھنے کی. نماز پڑھنی ہے گر وارث نماز کے ساتھ, نماز پڑھنی ہے گر وارث نماز کے ساتھ, ابھی سے ڈال دو عادت نماز پڑھنے کی, ابھی سے ڈال دو عادت نماز پڑھنے کی. میں چاہتا ہوں علی کے علی سے بات کروں, میں چاہتا ہوں علی کے علی سے بات کروں, مجھے یوں رہتی ہے عجلت نماز پڑھنے کی, مجھے یوں رہتی ہے عجلت نماز پڑھنے کی. میں جب مصلی پہ آؤں تو دل یہ کہتا ہے, میں جب مصلی پہ آؤں تو دل یہ کہتا ہے, یہ کربلا سے اجازت نماز پڑھنے کی, لے کربلا سے اجازت نماز پڑھنے کی. علی کی جو کر رہا ہے مذمت نماز پڑھنے کی, علی سے پوچھ فضیلت نماز پڑھنے کی. صلوات نبی.
افضل الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله محمد وآل محمد صلوات. صلو علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی ایسے مناتے ہیں, علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی ایسے مناتے ہیں, لگا کر حیدری نعرے, لگا کر حیدری نعرے تو چہرے مسکراتے ہیں, علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی ایسے مناتے ہیں, علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی ایسے مناتے ہیں ہماری بندگی مولا ہماری زندگی مولا نبی نے کہہ دیا مولا جسے بس ہے وہی مولا سکھایا ماں نے اپنی لوریوں میں یا علی مولا غدیر خم کا قصہ غدیر خم کا قصہ اپنے بچوں کو سناتے ہیں علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی ایسے مناتے ہیں سب ساتھ مل کے پڑھیے علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی ایسے مناتے ہیں کھلا کرتا ہے حج کے درمیاں خوشیوں کا دروازہ طواف ایسا ہے ہوتا جھومتا ہے خانہ کعبہ دلوں میں عظمت توحید لب پر یا علی مولا دلوں میں عظمت توحید لب پر یا علی مولا خدا کے گھر علی پیدا خدا کے گھر علی پیدا ہوئے سب کو بتاتے ہیں علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی ایسے مناتے ہیں علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی ایسے مناتے ہیں جو کہلاتا ہے مومن کربلا کا ہے وہ باشندہ مظالم کے مقابل خون سے رہتا ہے پائندہ علی پر جان دے کر یہ ہمیشہ ہو گئے زندہ شہیدوں کے تو چہرے بھی شہیدوں کے تو چہرے بھی کفن میں مسکراتے ہیں علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی ایسے مناتے ہیں علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی ایسے مناتے ہیں علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی ایسے مناتے ہیں مصلی پہ میں نے علی کا قصیدہ جو ہی گنگنایا سویرے سویرے خدا کی قسم پھر عبادت کا مجھ کو بڑا لطف آیا سویرے سویرے مصلی پہ میں نے علی کا قصیدہ جو ہی گنگنایا سویرے جو شہ کی بوادت سے نے حر کو جھنجھوڑا تو اس نے بھی غفلت کے بستر کو چھوڑا بستر کو چھوڑا تو خود آفتاب شہادت نے اس کا مقدر جگایا سویرے سویرے مصلی پہ میں نے علی کا قصیدہ جو ہی گنگنایا سویرے سویرے ابھرتے ہیں سورج نے ہم دو ثنا کی زیارت کی پھر روزہ مرتضیٰ کی روزہ مرتضیٰ کی پرندوں نے اپنی زباں میں قصیدہ علی کا سنایا سویرے سویرے مصلی پہ میں نے علی کا قصیدہ جو ہی گنگنایا سویرے سویرے خدا की कसम फिर इबादत का मुझको बड़ा लुत्फ आया। सवेरे सवेरे मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम। बीमार दश्ते बला जो बीमार हूँ जल्द पावे शिफा। इलाही बराए इमामे ज़मान हमें हौल में है शर से दे तू अमान। क़यामत को महाशूर हों बाली उठे कब्र से कह के हम या अली है पाँच वनों में चहार दातन अहमद व अली ज़हरा। शबीर से ले ता इमाम ज़मान शबीर से ले ता इमाम ज़मान एक एक पे सदा सलवात पढ़ो सलवात सलवात व सलाम या इमाम ज़मान फरमाओ ज़ुहूर या इमाम ज़मान सलवात। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद। अस्सलामु अलैका या रसूल अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या नबी अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या मुहम्मद इब्न अब्दिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या अमीर अल-मुमिनीन, अस्सलामु अलैकी या फातिमा अज़-ज़हरा सय्यदती निसाइल आलमीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या अइम्मत अल-बक़ी अल-हसन इब्न अली, अली इब्न अल-हुसैन व मुहम्मद इब्न अली व जाफ़र इब्न मुहम्मद, अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दिल्लाह व अला अल-अरवाह अल्लती हल्लत बिफ़िनाइक अलैकुम मिन्नी जमीअन सलामुल्लाहि अबदन मा बक़ीत व बक़िय अल-लैल वन-नहार वला जअलहु अल्लाहु आखिर अल-अहद मिन्नी लिज़ियारतिकुम। अस्सलामु अला अल-हुसैन व अला अली इब्न अल-हुसैन व अला औलाद अल-हुसैन व अला अस्हाब अल-हुसैन बिलखुसूस सय्यदी व मौलाय अबिल-फ़ज़ल अल-अब्बास व उख्तैक ज़ैनब व उम्म कुलसूम व बिन्तिक सकीना। अस्सलामु अलैकुम या अइम्मतल काज़िमिय्या व सामर्रा, अस्सलामु अलैका या मौला व इब्न मौला, अस्सलामु अलैका या गरीब अल-गुरबा, अस्सलामु अलैका या मुईन अद-दुअफ़ा वल फ़ुक़रा, अस्सुल्तान अबुल हसन अली इब्न मूसा ar-रिज़ा, कुन शफ़ीअना व शफ़ीअ वालिदैना फ़ी यौमिल जज़ा। अस्सलामु अलैका व अला उख्तिका फ़ातिमतिल मासूमतित ताहिरा व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अस्सलामु अलैका या सय्यदी या साहिबल अस्र वज़्ज़मान, अस्सलामु अलैका या खलीफतर रहमान, अस्सलामु अलैका या शरीकल कुरआन, अस्सलामु अलैका या कअबतल ईमान, अस्सलामु अलैका या इमामना व इमामल इंसी वल जान, अस्सलामु अलैकुम या इमाम मुहम्मद तक़ी, अस्सलामु अलैकुम या इमाम अली नक़ी, अस्सलामु अलैकुम या इमाम हसन अल-अस्करी, अस्सलामु अलैकुम या साहिबुल अस्र वज़्ज़मान, अस्सलामु अलैकुम या साइर शुहदाए करबला जमीअन व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अल फ़ातिहा मअस सलावात। बिस्मिल्लाह। الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. الله